All right, lads and lasses, and good day, mates. Welcome to another episode of the Toon podcast, the Southern Hemisphere's #1 podcast dedicated to all things Newcastle United. Today we're going to be talking about the Leicester game coming up at the weekend. And joining me today to do that is Dimmy, who looks like he's pitch side down there at St. James's Park, but I have it on good authority. You're actually in Victoria, mate. How are you going?
Going well. As you can probably tell by my voice, still recovering from quite a big weekend.
Your three sports concerns, let's call them that, all came up with wins at the weekend, didn't it? So it was, first of all, it was Melbourne victory, I think, against City, the derby.
Yep.
What was the result on that one?
3-0. Should have been 6, but 3-0. So Saturday was massive day. And then obviously Saturday morning early, we got the win against Wolves. And then on Sunday, Essendon topped it off with a tight victory. So it was one of those perfect weekends that happens very rarely.
Even the Bombers managed to get a win. What are the odds? Dear me, they've had a bit of a shit start of the season, haven't they, the Bombers, in the Aussie rules?
We have.
Good to have you on, Dimmy. We were expecting Mark to be along with us. He might pop in at some point. But yeah, unfortunately, we were unable to get hold of a Leicester fan to give us the Leicester perspective on this one. So you're stuck with us 2 for now and hopefully 3 in a little bit. So in a minute, we'll take a short break, as we usually do, and then we'll get into the preview of this game. And then towards the end of the show, we'll have a quick question and answer session. So if you're joining us in the live comment section, please stick a question in if you have one, and we'll do our best to give you our honest answers. We're just a bunch of numpties. We don't know anything, but, we like to pretend that we do. So if you have any questions, please stick them in there and we'll get on to them at the end of the show. So first of all, a short break, and then we'll get on with this preview of Leicester. All right, welcome back to the preview of the Leicester game at the weekend. It's Newcastle at home again against Leicester, and it's on Sunday, which is, I think, a 2:15 p.m. kickoff in England, which is about 5:15 a.m. kickoff Monday morning for us all the way down under. 5:15. Fortunately, it's the Easter weekend.
The other way.
What?
It's 11:15 p.m. Sunday night.
Is it?
Yep.
Brilliant. Oh, that's all right then. I don't know what you're whinging about. No, that's great. All right, so it's 11:15 on the Sunday night. All right, I was going to say it's the Easter weekend, and we haven't got to worry about getting up on the Monday, but I suppose that's still true. But even better if it's on Sunday night. Beauty. All right, nice one. I'm glad you told me that. I would have got up on Monday morning and wondered where the hell the game was. I told you, a bunch of numpties. It's just me, basically. I'm just the biggest numpty of the lot. That's why I do it on this side, so I don't have to answer any questions. So our opponent, Leicester, they are in European action away to PSV on Thursday, UK time. I guess we'll be hoping that it goes to extra time because it's currently 0-0 on aggregate, I believe. And it'd be nice if they take it all away so that they're a little bit knackered when it comes to the game on Saturday. It remains to be seen how they line up against PSV and how that feeds into the game on Sunday. That said, last time they had a European game when we played them at their place earlier in the season, they lost a couple of days earlier to Napoli, and then they still came along and beat us 4-0. So it's near guaranteed it's going to do us any favours whatsoever. But fingers crossed. So let's just set the scene with a look at the table. Give a bit of context to this one. Newcastle there in 15th. We've dropped a place since the results of the weekend. And Leicester up there in 9th. They went up a spot after their victory over Crystal Palace. Just for the benefit of anyone who might be listening to this, Norwich at the bottom on 21, Watford on 22, and Burnley on 24. Then it's Everton on 28, and Leeds on 33. Then it's us on 34. Then Southampton, Brentford, and Aston Villa all on 36. And Brighton on 37, and Crystal Palace on 37. And as I say, Leicester on 40. So, Dimmy, just very quickly, Craig's 99% sure that we're safe. I reckon we are safe, even though we only three places above the rele zone there. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought we were safe before Wolves, to be honest. But now with Burnley losing to Norwich, that 10-point gap, you just can't see Burnley making up 10 points in 8 games. We'd have to probably completely collapse and lose the next 7 games, and even then they'd have to win 4 out of their last 8, which they've won 4 out of 30. So we can probably start looking ahead to the summer and next season. But obviously, we still want to finish on a high and not go into the off season with some bad form.
Yeah, the slight difference with this time round is that obviously you get an extra bit of prize money, don't you, at the end of the season with every place that you gain in the league, essentially. And we always thought that would be what Money Mike wanted. If there was a chance of getting one more spot up there and get an extra few $100,000, he'd be all about that. Doesn't really matter to us these days now, since we're absolutely minted. And but still, I think even just as a way of attracting players, if you can say, well, we're finished 10th, sounds a lot better than finished 16th, 17th, or even 15th for that matter. So that's the context of the game. The form guide for the last 5 games for both teams. Start with Newcastle. We beat Wolves 1-0 at the weekend, of course. Very tight game. Very boring game, actually. I was listening back to the pod that we did after that one, and it was boring until Fraser got injured. That was like the first bit of excitement. So before that, it was that heavy defeat against Spurs. Then we lost against Everton in the 100th minute. Then the very controversial defeat against Chelsea and the 2-1 victory away to Southampton. Leicester, on the other hand, have just beaten Crystal Palace 2-1. And Crystal Palace are going pretty well, so that was a good result, that. And they drew 1-1 against Man United, beat Brentford 2-1, lost at home to Arsenal 2-0, and then beat Leeds 1-0. So just on the basis of that, Demi, I think you have to say they're coming into this with a bit better form than us.
Probably, yes, but if you take away that Spurs game, which is obviously still etched in our memory, the Everton Chelsea games could have gone either way. Probably deserved a result in both of them, if we're honest. So you can see there both teams aren't scoring much and aren't conceding much. So it's got all the hallmarks of a low scoring tight game, which is what we're probably used to at the moment. And hopefully we can have that 1 or 2 moments of quality to score, and hopefully Leicester don't have the energy, like we said, from their game on Friday morning.
Yeah, fingers crossed on that one. Obviously, we had that heavy defeat against Spurs, but you're right. I mean, especially since Eddie Howe came in, we've been really tight at the back. So that was really a bit of an outlier, that result. Absolute stinker that one was.
Well, it was the only one. Sorry, mate. I was just going to say it was the only game they were saying on that Spurs one in January, or since the last 3 or 4 months, we conceded more than 1 goal, let alone 5. So we're not conceding more than 1, really, in the last 3 or 4 months. So that gives you a chance to get results.
Yeah, just a weird, awful game, that one. But there again, Spurs are on a roll at the minute, aren't they? After Conte sort of threatened to leave, basically. Seem to have done the trick for them. So look at some of the last few games between the two teams. Now, this obviously isn't just all at St. James's Park. I just nicked this off the Premier League website, so I got what I was given. But you can see there that in the last 5 games, Leicester have won 4 and Newcastle's won 1. And they've been quite heavily scoring against us as well. So again, just for people who are listening, so in 2019, it was 5-0 to Leicester down at their place. And then in January 2020, they beat us at our place 3-0. So that's already 8 goals to nothing. And then the 3rd of the 1st, 2021, so the next season, it was 2-1 to Leicester at St. James's. And then it was 4-2. That was the one win that we actually managed to get against Leicester down to King Power Stadium. And I think that might have been the very first time they did that photograph after the game. Do you remember they all huddled together and they took that photograph? And it's kind of set the trend for what they do all the time now when they win almost. I mean, it wasn't quite setting a trend. And a lot of people are like, hold on, we only just beat Leicester and we're doing this like cup final pause at the end. What's that about? Now it feels a little bit different, doesn't it? But that was the first one. I remember that really well. And the last game that we played against them in December 21, Leicester beat us 4-0. So you said there, Dimi, that it's likely to be a low scorer, but bloody hell. I mean, they've put a few passes, haven't they? Looking at those 5 there.
Yeah, when we lose, especially at the King Power, we've been battered a couple of times there, but I think it's always a game against Leicester that there's a player, James Maddison, always seems to just completely tear us apart. So he's one player that I think, if fingers crossed, he plays on Thursday morning for Leicester, he plays 120 minutes and he rolls an ankle, or he can't come up for the game on Sunday afternoon, and then we don't have to deal with him, because besides Maddison, it always seems like it's a touch and go game. And even the game at 4-0, it was 0-0, I think, for half an hour. Maddison, I think it was, went over easily in the box, got a penalty, and then that was all she wrote. So it's a win-1 Leicester. Yeah, it was ridiculous. Well, just a long list of VAR going against us, but we digress. But yeah, Leicester, look, those results show that they can score against us, but this isn't the same team. Even the 4-0, that was early days with Eddie Howe. It's not the same team now. So I think we can be pretty confident that we're not going to be shipping 3 or 4 goals against Leicester.
16 goals for them, 5 for us. It has to get better, doesn't it? That's absolutely shocking. That Maddison just occurred to me, that Maddison dive, and it was a dive, let's be honest. Did you see any similarities between that one and the Chris Woody one at the weekend that won us that game?
Well, the difference was, for me, Wood was going 1-1 and sort of rounding the keeper, and kept his body, or kept running into the goalkeeper. From memory with Maddison, I think he got Lascelles to bite and felt the contact and went down. So it wasn't as if he was 1-on-1 attacking the goals. That's what made it for me a lot worse. Whereas at least Wood is going towards goal, trying to round the keeper in theory. But like I said in the podcast before, if we've been unlucky with those decisions in the past. If you feel contact in the box, go down.
I don't know if you watched the preview, the review that we did after the game, but I did give you a bit of a shout out for that particular moment there. Were you kind of thrust in the air when you saw him go down easy under that challenge? Because that was exactly what you were talking about beforehand, weren't you?
Yeah. Well, I've got a bit of a notorious reputation watching Victory on the weekends. I always yelling out dive or fall. Not as if I'm pro cheating or anything like that, but if there's contact, there's contact. And referees are too stupid to work out whether it's proper contact or not. So I'm sick and tired of my teams suffering the reverse effect. So if you're in the box and you feel a bit of contact, go down. What's the worst thing can happen? You get yellow carded for diving. If that happens, okay, move on.
All right.
You don't like it, do you?
Fair enough. Look, I don't want people to dive because I think it ruins the game. But I did just kind of have a chuckle myself thinking of you sitting there going like, he's dived, he's done what I wanted him to do. Get in, because we were talking about ASM, I think, initially in one of the other ones, and he didn't go down when he could have, and you were saying, he needs to go down. And fair enough. Right, so let's get up the team slides now. Just before I do that, I've got a bit of a question for you. I'm going to have a timer ready here. A little quiz. It would have been a little bit better if Mark had been around, but he looks like he's buggered off for good. So this is just before we get the teams out. So the question is, only 2 players have played for both teams in the Premiership years. Ayoze Perez is obviously one of them. This is an easy question, actually. Who's the other one? Wait a minute.
Danny Simpson.
Oh, bugger. I want you to start the freaking timer. Yeah, it was Danny Simpson. Yeah. Here is another question for you based on the same thing. Can you name, there's only 5 others that I can think of that have played for both teams outside of the Premiership. Can you name any one of them? I'll give you a clue if you want on 5. It's 5 already. One of them is your countryman.
My countryman, Australian.
Oh, no, not that country. the other one.
Greece.
The country of your ancestors. Yeah, let's put it that way. I probably should have been a little bit clearer on that one. It was Nikos Dabazas.
That's right. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, so it was Dabazas. He had 51 appearances, actually. Paul Kitson did 50 appearances and 6 goals. Sir Les, 29 appearances with 12 goals. War Nobby, 13 appearances, didn't score. Keith Gillespie, 42 appearances, 2 goals. And the final one was Steve Howie, 13 appearances and 1 goal. That was basically the 95-96 bloody squad, I think. Pretty much all just buggered off to Leicester straight after we failed to win the league or something. I don't know. Quick thank you to our friend Chris Wolf, the Newcastle journalist, for writing that article about 4 or 5 years ago, which I totally nicked for that little bit there because I couldn't think of anything. All right, let's have a look at the team slides then. And since it's Newcastle at home, we'll start with the mighty Magpies. And it's Dubravka at the back, Target, Burns, Shaw, and Kraft in the defence. That's unchanged. Shelvey, Bruno, and Joe Linton in the middle, also unchanged. Shelvey with the captain's armband. ASM, Wood, and then Almiron. So this was your pick for our first 11. The most obvious change is Almiron for the injured Fraser. Any particular reason you went with him instead of perhaps Murphy?
Well, probably the only reason I went with that was Howe seemed to think he was the man to come on for Fraser early on. I would have thought Murphy was going to come on for Fraser. Just going by recent games, Murphy will seem to be the first choice winger off the bench. But Miggy came on. I thought he was quite decent. Set up that offside goal for Chris Wood. Had a couple of the decent movements. I mean, you know what you're going to get from Miggy. He sometimes lacks that quality in the final third that really hurts teams, but he puts a shift in. And I think when you've got ASM on the other side who arguably doesn't put a shift in and just stays at the top of the pitch, you need somebody else to be tracking back. So I think you reward Miggy for his 75, 80 minutes, whatever it was against Wolves, and give him a go from the start.
I honestly thought that Murphy would be the first choice in there. He seems to me the more natural winger for a start. Almiron does wings, obviously, but he kind of also plays in the middle and kind of just pops up everywhere. I think there was that touch that he made. I know what you mean. He touched on like a back heel, wasn't it? Back flick heel type thing to Bruno, I think it was, who squared it to Wood, who was already on his arse at this point. And it bounced off a defender's hand, I think, before it actually landed at his foot and he kicked it in. But I can't really remember anything. I mean, maybe it's a sign that he didn't do anything terribly bad that I don't remember much about what he did in this game. I know he obviously runs and runs and runs and runs, but I don't really remember him doing much else.
He had one. Was it Shea put the ball over the top where he controlled it and the ball was bouncing. He couldn't keep it down. There was one, I think he made a good run and he didn't keep his shot down. I think I remember in the first half. So you're right. He doesn't have the quality in the final third that you think of chances created or moments. He's not like ASM is going to be doing something. He's more your battler, your grafter, your worker.
Yeah. And I'll tell you why I think Murphy is probably a better option there. I was reading about this on one of the Leicester forums just beforehand. They've not really had a settled defence all season. I think someone on the forum said they've had 25 different combinations of defence in the games they've had this season. And that's led to some of their dodgy results that they've had was the point the guy was trying to make on the forum. And I think if you've got an unsettled defence, one that might even be a bit knackered after playing PSV, you want someone who can whip the ball in. Now, you cannot really guarantee you're going to get with ASM, but he can run out the defences anyway and cause them all kinds of panic, especially if they're knackered. Almiron isn't really going to run out the defences. He's not really going to whip the ball in. He kind of sticks to the line down the wing and he can kind of come inside a little bit and maybe do a bit of interchange with the likes of Bruno and Big Joe. But if he's out there on that wing, you want him to be whipping the balls in to Wood, give him the service and put that defense, that inconsistent defense, I suppose, under some kind of pressure. And I don't think you're going to get that with Almiron. I think Murphy would be a better choice there. So I think everyone else basically picks themselves. Emil Kraft, I'm happy to see him at that position, which is like words I could never imagine I would have said earlier on in the season. But the way he played that game, especially with that really late last ditch defending that he did against who was it? Neto, or maybe it was Silva. I'm not exactly, I think it might have been Silva.
Silva, yeah,
was excellent. He didn't leave his man. He kept on him and he stuck to him. And you don't see that enough from Kraft. And he was also running around like as fast as anybody on the pitch as well. So he's obviously got the legs. And I think in the midfield, you're going to put any balls. You're not going to put any balls in there, are you? I mean, Willock's injured still anyway, by all accounts, with his dodgy knee. Shelby, I think, makes a big difference. I said in the review of Wolves, it's a hell of a difference when he's not there and you don't have the person who can release those balls out to the wing or even through the middle and relieve the pressure. So it allows you to kind of come out of your lines and sort of reset a little bit. When he's not in the team or when he's having a bad game, I mean, he could have one of those horrible games where he's just ballooning everything out all over the place and getting us absolutely nowhere. But he's important, I think, in this kind of 4-3-3 lineup. And obviously ASM is just live wire. God knows what you're going to get with him. And hopefully Wood will be able to score another goal at home, which will be his second of the season at home. So Leicester, I believe this is the lineup from the last outing against Crystal Palace. There weren't any injuries that we are aware of. And obviously we don't know what's going to happen in Europe. So some of this could well change. But it'll be Schmeichel at the back. You pretty much guarantee that. Then it's Justin, Armity, Soyuncu, Thomas, Tielsman, Mendy, Madison, Dewsbury Hall, who scored, I think, Lookman, and then Daka up top. So that's a slightly unusual looking Leicester City, and that's largely because the likes of Jamie Vardy and Wilfred Ndidi are injured, and Ayoze Perez is ill. I'm sure Perez just does everything he can not to face Newcastle, because he just never seems to turn up, does he? Yeah, so as I said, they've had this unsettled defense. They've actually conceded 15 more goals this season at the same point as they did last season, and they've scored 10 fewer. So injuries are definitely playing a part in this team and the performance this season, which that might explain why they're down in 10th and not in 4th, 5th, or 6th. But out of that team there, with the likes of Vardy especially being out, it sort of, in theory, makes it a little bit easier for us. But they've still got a lot of good players in there. Tielsman's good. What was his name? Soyuncu? Yeah, you broke up, but Soyuncu, let's say. Mendy, I think, is all right. Dewsbury Hall scored a goal, so he's obviously one for the future. And then, of course, you've got the main danger, I think, you'd have to see on this team, which is James Madison down there on the left, who is absolutely flying with the balls at the minute. Flying with the balls? That didn't come out right. He's flying this season. Let's just say that. Flying with the balls. Fucking hell. But who do you pick out on that team, and where do you see our main threats being, and possibly where can we take advantage?
Madison for sure is the main threat for me. He's a little rat sometimes, like we saw in the first game where he fell over and bought that penalty with no contact, which is the difference between Chris Wood. There was contact with Chris Wood. But besides Madison, I think Tielemans again is another quality player. But now we've got Bruno in the midfield, so I think Bruno would match up pretty well with Tielemans, so that might cancel each other out. And I think the chance we're going to have your mate Soyuncu at the back, he's not the best aerially from memory, and he can be had and can be bullied. And I think Chris, on the back of his 2 goals, one being disallowed, 1 penalty, I think he might have a bit of pep in his step, as they say, and could get on a bit of a run here.
He's the one with that ridiculous haircut, isn't he?
Yep, that's him.
Thought as much. Soyuncu. I'll give up.
Soyuncu.
I say Schmeichel, so there's that. All right, so let's just get rid of that. Now, before we do some score predictions, and again, this is flying along here because we're missing Mark, who would have been chipping in with his opinions. Score predictions. I've got another question for you. Oh, hold on, let me get the timer ready. 10 seconds. Being very generous here. So last season, we've already said at Leicester, Newcastle won by 4-3. Wilson got 2. Willock got 1, but who scored the other? I'll be amazed if you get this.
Fabian Schär.
No.
I guess again.
Oh, there goes the buzzer. I'll give you one more guess. You're in the right neck of the woods. There's your
Jojo
clue.
Shelby.
I was in the right neck of the woods. That's not the same neck. That's the different.
I didn't hear that
mate.
first part. I guessed before you said the clue.
Yeah. I have another golden. Same neck of the woods as
Jamal Lascelles.
Oh, your mate? No. It wasn't him. It was actually Paul Dummett.
Paul Dummett scored
on the goal.
Did he?
Yeah. Well, that's what the internet tells me. You know.
I don't remember Dummett scored.
Yeah,
really?
I'm just a messenger here.
I'm not telling you. The facts are facts.
Well, yeah, these facts are. The other question I've got as well is sort of similar basis in the 96-97 season. So I'm really going to stretch your memory here. Big Al scored a match-winning hat-trick in a 4-3 win against Leicester at St James's Park. But who scored the other goal for Newcastle? You'll never get this one. Same neck of the woods. Think defenders. It was Rob. Are you going to take a guess?
I would have said Rob Lee, but he's not a defender, so no.
It was Rob E. Elliott.
Oh, Elliott. Robbie Elliott. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, man.
Did score.
You got part of the syllable right. Got part of the syllable right. I'll give you half a point. So we're flying through this preview here. What's your score prediction for this one then, Dimmy? What do you reckon?
2-1 victory. I reckon Leicester's going to be stuffed from their trip to Holland to play PSV, and they've got really nothing to play for in the league. Hopefully, for our sake, they win, so they've got something to plan for going forward in Europe, which gives them even more incentive to do nothing in the Premier League. So I'm saying 2-1 victory, Chris Wood to score 1, and Bruno to score his first goal at home.
Well, that'd be all right, wouldn't it? Your signal's breaking up ever so slightly. You've kind of went a bit blocky, like you're from the 1980s or something, but we'll crack on. Just about hear you. I reckon, well, I was going to say the same thing, actually. Leicester have got now to play for this season now. They're in 10th. They're not going to get anywhere else, more than likely. Europe, if they do well against PSV, Europe will probably be their focus going forward, so they can get back into Europe. I think if you win the European Euro Conference, you get straight back into Europe. I think that's right. So they'll be hoping to get through that way, because it doesn't look like they're going to get through any other way. I think they may be knackered, but I suspect Brenda is going to rotate his squad a little bit. I suspect that, given that they've been traveling, given that they haven't really got anything to play for, and the energy levels might be low, I think they'll probably sit back and try and hit us on the counter like Wolves did. I suspect they'll have a lot more interest in this game in general, though, than Wolves, who were like useless. They just turned up and didn't want to play this game at all against us until we scored, and then they kind of thought, oh, that's right, we need to try and get something out of this game now. So I'm going to say, I think it'll be a 0-0 or possibly a score draw, but I don't think either team, we weren't going to break down Wolves by the looks of things. We didn't look at anything like we're going to beat Wolves. It was just a dull back and forwards game where we're getting absolutely knocked from knee one. And it could be the same for this one. So it's either going to be a 0-0 or a 1-1. I don't think it's going to be a big scorer. That's my prediction. All right. And let's just finish off this preview with a look at the upcoming fixtures for Newcastle. So, of course, Leicester, as we've just said, on Sunday. Then we've got the third of the 3 home games in a row against Crystal Palace. Oh, that's the day before my birthday. And then Norwich away, which you look at that and think probably that's a 3-pointer. Then you've got those 3 games together where I suspect we won't get much out of it. Newcastle at home to Liverpool, then we are away to Man City, and then we are home against Arsenal. If any of those 3 games we're going to get anything out of, I imagine it'll be the Arsenal game. And we finish off the season, by the looks of things, not a season-defining game, but it'll be away to Burnley. So I think I was targeting 6 points out of those fixtures. We've already got 3 against Wolves. I wasn't expecting to get anything out of that one, but Wolves didn't bother turning up. I'm not really expecting much from Leicester or Palace. I still think we'll get something from Norwich and Burnley. Maybe a point against Arsenal. So are you still going for your 15 points? No, 14 points. It wasn't 14. Yeah, sorry. I do forgive me.
I did say between 12 and 14, but I'll go 14. But if we win this Leicester one, we're 6. We've still got Norwich and Burnley to play. Forget the Liverpool and City games. Norwich and Burnley still to play. Burnley probably relegated by then. 14 points is not out of the question, mate.
I'll tell you what, if I hadn't have gotten those 3 points against Wolves, I would have been saying, I can't see it. But, you know, it's stranger things that happened. I suspect still another 6, but I can see potential 4 and 2 on top of that. So 8, maybe, which would be 8, 9, 10, 11. So I'm actually kind of just basically where you were, and I took the piss out of you for saying 14, didn't I? And I haggled it down to 12, and now I'm actually saying we'll probably be 11, so I'm just talking shit. Let's get rid of that. And just a comment there from your mate, I believe. Leicester will probably get a dodgy 91st minute penalty to win 1-0. Yeah, it'll be bloody Madison flying over on his arse again, won't it? It'll be bloody Madison diving over again. All right, well, that'll do for our preview. Sorry, it was a little bit on the short side, but yeah, we couldn't get a guest to join us. I think they've all cottoned on that we usually win those games when they come along and join us. Except that Spurs fan, he must have been well happy about that. Yeah, so that'll have to do for our preview. And we'll take a short break now, and then we'll do a bit of a question and answer session. All right, question and answers. Your 2 numpties here with all the answers. Let's see. We'll start off with GT Nut, because I think he's in a chat. GT Nut 85, friend of the podcast. I think we can say that by now. Will Howe be overlooked for manager of the season if we finish in the top 10 because we spent big in Jan? Do you want to take that one first?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you can't really give manager of the year to somebody finishing the top 10 and 10th, even though we're at the bottom. You'd have to think it's going to be Klopp or Guardiola or even David Moyes if West Ham finish 5th, 6th. So yeah, Howe's been terrific, and we would obviously not be here without him. God knows where we would be if Cabbage Heads were still around. But we take what we've got, and look, manager of the year, who cares about that? We're happy enough being safe at the moment. So yeah, I don't think he'll be in contention.
I tend to agree just on the practicalities of it. If there was a manager of the half season, he would be in there with a shout, I think. But you know, he's only done half the season. Start off. There's that one thing, and I mean, if we're finishing top 10, we're all going to be super happy, and we'll probably all be shouting for him to be recognised in one way or another. But the fact that he's only started in Christmas or whenever the hell it was when he came in, and as good a job as he's done, I think there are probably more worthy recipients when you look at the season as a whole. And so yeah, I don't think he'd be in for a shout with the manager of the season, but let's give him the half season. I think that's fair enough, isn't it? Manager of the half season. Who else are you going to pick for manager of the half season? It's not going to be bloody Roy Hodgson, is it?
Definitely not. You'd have to probably say not even David Moyes, because West Ham's sort of maybe come into 4th.
Yeah, Eddie Howe, give it to him. Oh, you could maybe Patrick Vieira. He's been doing a cracking job since he took over Palace. But no, let's give it to Howe. Next question from NUFC fan 1892, also another friend of the pod. If we sold every player who isn't Premier League quality, would we have a starting 11? Now I came prepared. I've got this list of names here. Let me just remove the question so we can see it. So I'll just read out the squad. So this is the 25-man squad that goes into the second half of the season. It was obviously Dubravka at the top. Then Paul Dummett, Fabian Shaw, Jamal Lascelles, Joe Linton, John Joe Shelby, Callum Wilson, Alan St. Maximin. Matt Ritchie, remember him? Matt Targett, Kieran Trippier, Emil Kraft, Freddie Fernandez, remember him? Javier Manquillo, Chris Wood, Ryan Fraser, Jacob Murphy, Miguel Almiron, Carl Darlow, Joe Willock, Mark Gillespie, Dan Byrne, Dwight Gale, Sean Longstaff, and Bruno Guimaraes. Get used to saying Guimaraes, quite like it. So, for those who aren't watching and who are listening along here, I've actually put, this is my opinion on this. I'll go first on this one since you went first on the last one. So, I've got red dots against the people who I think are not Premier League quality anymore. And that's either because the skills just aren't there, or because they're getting old, or because they're getting too injured. And then I've got grey dots against those who I think are kind of borderline. So the red dots are Paul Dummett, who is old and injured a lot, and deserves to go out on a high, but I think he's going to go out on an injury. And then it's Matt Ritchie, who hasn't really had a look in since Eddie Howe came along, and if he was playing at left back, you would never ever want to have him in the Premier League. And he doesn't really have an end product, just runs up and down a bit. Then there's Matt Targett, who's not ours. That's why he's got a red dot there. And then you've got Miguel Almiron, who I'm still thinking isn't going to be cut off for this league. You might disagree, Demi. Carl Darlow. Carl Darlow. Ken Darlow. He needs to go. Mark Gillespie, obviously, that's a bit unfair, but he's the third choice keeper. But yeah, I mean, if he was in between the sticks for a Premiership game, would you be confident about Mark Gillespie? I don't think so. Then you got Dwight Gale, who apparently is the best trainer in the club, and can't get a game under Eddie Howe, but apparently is wonderful behind the scenes. But I think it's been proven on a few occasions now he's just not quite Premier League quality. And then for the grey dots, the ones I'm sort of on the fence again, it's your mate Jamal Lascelles. For all the reasons we've talked about before, he loses his head, he doesn't command his area, he's the captain, but yeah, it just doesn't seem to be suited, and he's pretty slow. Emil Kraft, who has been absolute gash this season, but in the last game especially, he was actually showing signs of why he may be Premiership if he can train to be better. If we can train him to be up to the standards we need, then he's a possible. Can't believe I'm saying it. Javier Manquillo, much for the same reasons. Not sure about him. The way he's been playing the last few games when he got his chance was absolutely terrible. And Sean Longstaff, who I think will forever be on the fence on with him because he never seems to get a run of games and you can never really make your bloody mind up about him. So just looking at that, let's see how many there is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 14. So about 14 first team players, I think, Premiership quality out of our current squad of 25. That would presumably give you 11. I haven't actually worked out if we've got all the positions. Left back is an absolute problem, so there is definitely something we need to sort out there. So in fact, if you think about left back, Paul Dummett's no longer in the team because I've just ejected him, and I've got rid of Matt Ritchie as well, and Lewis is gone. So really, coming to the heart of the question, no, he wouldn't have a starting 11 because there'd be nobody at left back. You'd be absolutely stuffed. And Matt Targett's not ours, like I say. But on the head count, I think probably just about have enough for a team. Subs, on the other hand, is a completely different matter. The subs, if it was all these red dots, that is in fact, it was pretty much against Wolves. It's a terrible bench. But what about you? I'll get the question back up. From NUFC fan 8092, if we sold every player who isn't Premier League quality, would we have a starting 11? What do you reckon?
Well, there's varying levels of Premier League quality. I mean, what Premier League team do we want to be? Do we want to be 16th, 17th, 15th team? I mean, some of these players that you've got a red dot on, your Matt Ritchies, your Dwight Gales, they probably get a game for a newly promoted team, like your Fulhams, your West Brom, but they're not where we want to progress to. So probably at the moment, there's going to be a big clean out coming up in June, July.
So what was the answer to the question then? Do we have enough? Do we have enough starting 11 or not?
I would say no.
Yeah, I think probably the left back position is what really scuppers it. We do have a lot of quality in the ones that I haven't actually ejected there are some good players in our team, but there's also a lot of crap there as well in the squad. How many of those players do you think we'll actually get rid of in the summer? How much of an upheaval is it going to be in the summer, do you think?
I think we'll probably see at least 6 or 7 changes to the first team squad, which doesn't sound like a lot, but in a squad of 25 or 28, whatever they submit to the Premier League, I think that's quite a lot. So out of that list there, I think you're right. Dummett's, he's done. Richie's done. Darlow's done. Gale's done. So that's 4 without even thinking. Gillespie, that's 5. So we're already talking 5 players without even thinking about whether Cher gets a new contract, whether Longstaff stays, whether Murphy stays. So there's going to be massive changes. There's probably at least 7 or 8.
Roll on to the next question then. I will leave this slide up because it's relevant. This is from at someone's telephone number. I'm not going to bother reading it out. What do you think our best team and formation is with the current squad when everyone's fully fit? Why don't you go for that one?
I would say 4-3-3 still, because I don't think we've got more than one proper quality striker. I mean, Chris Wood's been doing a really good job. He works hard, but I couldn't see him and Wilson playing together, so a 4-4-2 wouldn't work. And I think the best part of our pitch is probably central midfield, and we've got probably 4 central midfielders now that are in decent form and been playing well the last few months. So I think 4-3-3, that's been proven the last 3 or 4 months. That's been our go-to when we won 4 or 5 games in a row. So I think 4-3-3 is the way to go for us.
And would you say best team would be Dubravka, Shaw? Defense is a bit of a trick when you haven't got
Dan Burn, Cher and Burn, yeah,
and
Trippier, right, yep.
Who's it left? Would you put left then? Since it'd have to be on the current squad. All right, but if you don't include him since he's not ours, it would have to be Dummett, wouldn't it?
Oh,
at left back. I mean, who else is going to put there?
Yeah, it'd have to be. Well, maybe Manquillo, but he's been terrible the last few games, so maybe not him. So probably Dummett, yeah.
But right, he's down the right. Is Manquillo? Does he play on left? I can't remember.
He played left against the Man United in December and was very decent. Yeah.
All right. I'd probably still venture Manquillo over Dummett even at left back in that case. So let's say Manquillo, Shaw, Burn, sorry, yeah, and then Kieran Trippier, and then you'd probably go with midfield's a bit of a trick. I would definitely say Bruno. I mean, you'd have to say Bruno, wouldn't you? And probably, well, definitely Big Joe. And again, I'm sticking this 4-3-3 because that's obviously, as you say, it's been proven for us. And then it's a little bit trickier. Now, do you go for Willock? Do you go for Shelby? Do you maybe venture into the realms of Longstaff in the middle there? Who would you pick along? Would you pick those 2 first of all, and then who would you pick alongside for the middle?
Yeah, definitely the Brazilian Joe. That'd be the first 2. I would probably say Willock. I'm not the biggest Shelby fan. I think his skill set is going to be probably not as useful as it was for us. So I think Willock in the midfield, his goals from midfield, his legs, which Shelby doesn't use, I think is more important. So I think I'd like to see between now and the end of the season, I'd like to see how Bruno, Big Joe, and Little Joe would go.
Yeah, Little Joe, fair enough. And then you've got the wings, which you would probably say ASM, even though he can be unbelievably frustrating at times. Would you say Fraser down the right? Or would you go with Jacob Murphy or even Miggy?
No, Fraser for sure.
Yeah, and then you'd obviously stick Wilson up front in the 4-3-3 formation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
All right, that's our best stab at what we reckon the best team is. But it needs to get better. I think it's fair to say. Next question, I'll give it to that. How does it make you feel when media, pundits, and fans of other clubs tell you what your expectations are for our club? Do you want to go on that one first?
Makes me feel fantastic. No, it's terrible, isn't it? It's terrible. It's happens all the time for us. We're told for years and years, what do your fans want? You're in the Premier League. You're in profits. Mike Ashley is doing a decent job. Why are you guys complaining? What, you're not entitled to be a top half team or a big six team. So
Steve Bruce, you should be grateful. He's a great bloke.
I didn't want to mention his didn't want to mention his name on the pod. I did refer to him as Cabbage Head, but you went Steve Bruce. That's okay. No, look, it is frustrating, but again, that's I think the Newcastle factor team. People don't really understand us as a club. People don't want to understand what the fans want. They just assume that this is what we expect. We expect to win titles, Champions Leagues, and everything like that. It's nothing like that. You can see how we get 1-0 wins against Wolves playing pretty poorly, and we're all over the moon. So it's not as if we need to be winning every game 3-0, 4-0, like Liverpool, Manchester City. We just want a team that tries. Like that banner said 3, 4, 5 years ago. We just want a team that tries.
Yeah, I wonder how long that lasts. I think there's a certain amount of inevitability that once we become more like a Man City or Liverpool, that there will be expectations for. In fact, we've already seen it this season when we lost that game against Chelsea and then Everton. People start to lose their shit about it because they were getting used to the idea of us being unbeaten in 9 games, and then when we lose the game, they're like, "Oh, that's fucking shit." For me personally, I honestly don't take a great deal of notice of it. I know what I want. I know what my own personal expectations are for Newcastle, and they're usually pretty simple. I just want us to win games. That's why anybody follows footy. You don't follow your team to lose games. I want us to win some games. If we lose, and every team loses at some point, I want us to lose with a fight. I don't want us to go out with a whimper like we did against Spurs. That's what really kind of pisses me off. And don't get relegated. For God's sake, do not get relegated. I bloody hate relegation, and I never want to see it happen again for us. 2 times in 11 years, whatever it was quite enough. Thank you. And from where we are right now, I think we can all start to dream about what the future holds for us, what we can become, what we might do. We might go on a cup run, for example. We might get back into Europe. Either of those 2 things would be absolutely brilliant from where we are right now, and especially from where we were before Eddie Howe came in. And, for me, but the reality for me is that we just need to do the basics properly. Go out there, give an honest performance, give an honest assessment of ourselves. And then that's it. I don't really expect anything more from that. And whenever anyone else says, you guys are expecting X, Y, and Z, I'll just kind of shrug my shoulders and say, whatever. And then I'll get on with my day, because it's got absolutely no bearing on exactly what I actually want out of my team. So, and that goes for other things like club ownership. I've got my own ideas about that and about the whole human rights aspect and all the other stuff that comes with it. Got my own ideas. I don't bother telling anybody about it. They're my ideas. You've got your own. I've got mine. I don't give a flying shite what you think. You can go swing. So, yeah, for me, it doesn't affect me whatsoever. I don't give a shit. All right, we've got a few more questions just in here before we wrap up. This is a funny one. Terraces S. Do you know if we've got first right of refusal to buy Mikel Merino? I think that boat's probably sailed a long time ago. I'm going to suggest no, but I could be completely wrong. Dimmy, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I don't think we do. Unfortunately, I heard in the papers this morning he was rated around 40, 50 million. Clubs in England are looking at him. So, yeah, it might be one that got away, but I don't think he enjoyed too much living up in the northeast. So,
well,
we'll have to just...
He's already been asked about it as well. And he already said, I might come back to the Premier League, but it won't be to Newcastle. I'm pretty sure that's right.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he kind of ruled it out himself that he won't be coming to us. So even if we have got first right of refusal, which we won't have because it was like 10 years ago or something, or 15 years ago when Bobby was still alive or something, I doubt he'd even want to come along anyway. But, we've got lots of money. You never know. Anyway, we've got Bruno. We don't need Mikel Merino. From Paul Wright, off topic, not really. It's about Newcastle. Do you guys think we can sign Lucas Paqueta in the summer? For that's Bruno's mate. Again, I mean, we're just two numbers. We've got any idea. It depends on his club. It depends on if he wants to come to us. He might not want to. Just because Bruno's here doesn't mean he wants to come here. He might want to go to a better team right now in the Premier League. I think the better question is, would it make sense if he came to us in the summer? And who would give way if that was the case? So you would probably think the likes of Shelby or Willock would end up making way for a Paqueta signing in the middle there. Would you agree with that, Dimmy?
Yeah, I'm just great question from Paul. I'm just fantasizing about an all-Brazilian midfield. Imagine Bruno, Big Joe, and Paqueta. We'd have the Samba three in the middle. How good with it? Huh?
Has that been done before? Has there been a team in the league that's had a full-on Brazilian midfield?
I would say no. I would say no.
Is it a risk, do you think, having three players who two of them don't really know the league?
Yeah, Bruno's a bit different. He's not a normal, I don't want to be disrespectful, but he's not your usual flashy Brazilian player. He's more your hard-working player. Joe Linton has turned into Patrick Vieira Mark II, so we know what his qualities are now. But Paqueta's a bit more on the front foot and more of a number 10. But yeah, we're not talking your traditional Neymar, Ronaldinho, Rivaldo, trickery sort of players. These guys are a bit more graft about them.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But so, do you think we can sign them? And as I say, a better question: do you think we should?
I think we can. We can sign anybody. We've got all the money in the world. But all jokes aside, we can. Should we sign him? I think there's more important positions to fill first, like a number 9. I think a number 9 is the number 1 and a left back. I think number 9 and left back are probably the number 1 and number 2 priorities. So once we get those sorted, if there's still plenty of cash in the bucket, why not?
Fair enough. All right, just one last one from again Terraces. Should we put Gale into the back room? To be honest, when you stick someone in the back room, you kind of imagine them being like trainers on a pitch, kind of working with, in his case, strikers. He hasn't shown anything to suggest he's got the skills to be a striker in the Premier League for me. So do you really want that guy in the backroom stuff sort of working with your strikers in that case? Probably not. Could he work with the under-23s? Absolutely. So if he was down that way, maybe. Would he want to? Is he now, 33? And he's just getting a big contract and he's still got another 2 years left on it, I think I read today. With an absolutely insane contract that he got last year. I don't think he'll want to get anywhere, frankly. I think he'll just sit there, be happy as Larry behind the scenes, getting paid 60 squillion bucks a day or whatever. And when his time's up, he'll probably retire, or maybe come over to Australia and try and get a little bit of a last payday, do you think? Play for victory, do you think?
Yeah, we'll take him up front. Why not?
Would you take him as a 36-year-old?
Yeah.
That gives you an idea of how bad the league is down here, everybody.
Hey.
You'd take a 36-year-old OAP and play him in the league when he's not even good enough for anywhere in England, probably by that point. No, I'm only joking. That came back up. So that's all the questions that we have. Thanks to everyone who submitted those to us today and over the last few weeks. If you have any more questions, please chuck them across. And we'll do our best to give our opinions, just our opinions. That's all they are, for what they're worth, which isn't very much, but we're happy to do it. And we do enjoy doing them as well. And we will be back in a few days' time. It'll be after the weekend, in fact, for the review of the Leicester City home game. I've predicted a draw and Dimmy's predicted a win. Dimmy always predicts a win. So let's hope that Dimmy is right this time again. And if you are on the socials, you can find us across all the regular areas, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. We're also on the audio podcasts, Spotify, Apple Music, and Amazon Music, and Audible, and a few other places as well. All the good places where you can find all this top quality content, you'll find us there more than likely. So once again, thank you for joining us, and we hope we will see you again for the review of the Leicester game in a few days' time. Take it easy, everyone. Away the Mighty Mags! Cheers, Demi.
Thanks, mate.